Alright, this is going to be a quick video update. I'm going to talk again about growing potatoes and the secret magical way to make all of your vegetables in your garden and your fruits free from pests and disease and fungus and bacteria and viruses. So, I've shown this method in videos before, but I'm doing it a little bit differently this time. So, a lot of people are familiar with a herb or seasoning called cilantro, and all of these little balls that you see down in here are the seeds from a cilantro plant, which are usually called coriander. So anyway, these cilantro seeds, I've sprinkled them all throughout here, and these are seeds I saved from my garden last year. I probably had about a pound of seeds that I saved from my garden last year. It's a many seeded plant, and you just wait for it to finish its growth cycle. It makes all the seeds, they're green at first, and when they turn brown and dry and their stems are dry, you just break them off and you shake them into a big bucket. So anyway, I kept mine stored in a baggie in the refrigerator, and I've tested growing some of them and have had pretty good germination rates. So since I don't have any cilantro leaves, most of my cilantro plants got covered up in the front yard garden. Everything's being switched over to the backyard. What I've done is I sprinkled these seeds all throughout here with my potato cuttings, and they're going to start germinating pretty rapidly, and they're going to protect these new baby potatoes. So when I pick this up, what you can see is it's thin. I just cut off the sections that have potential growth. Had a big bowl of water as I was cutting, and actually 2 big bowls of water, and one bowl was for all the potato cuttings and the cilantro seeds, and the other bowl was for the parts of the potato that I'm cooking right now on the oven, or on the stovetop rather. So what I'm going to do is, there's about 1.5 inches of soil in the bottom of this container, which I got on sale for about $1.27, and the rest of the soil is over here. Is a pretty good size bag for $1.27, quite heavy. Let's see, it was 1 cubic foot, really thick, rich, organic humus and manure. So I'm going to add another 1.5 inches of soil on top, and I'm going to watch for all these buds to start to grow, and then when they get tall enough to where they're, getting big, I'm going to just keep adding more soil. And then when the potatoes start to outgrow this container, well, then I'll move them into a bigger container. It's super, super easy to grow potatoes in containers. So I'm going to tell you real quick about some other projects I have going. We are hoping to find a new place to rent, but that's really difficult because we have a dog and a cat, and we need a place where we can garden and where we're going to have peace and quiet and feel safe, and that's a really difficult combination to find in our region, unfortunately. We are going to try and start our process for first-time home buying in August of 2019, so hopefully that's when we'll finally really get to start our family farm and organic garden. So in the meantime, these potatoes are growing, and I've moved this weeping willow tree back and put it in this big container here. And today I planted let's see, a ton of straw flower seeds in pink and multicolors. Tons of multicolor snapdragon seeds. The snapdragons were saved from last year in the garden. I also planted more cilantro, and I'm wanting to say, I also planted some Paulownia elongata. There's a carpenter bee. Oh, I love carpenter bees. Anyway, so Paulownia elongata, I have been dying to try and get them to sprout. I've not successfully sprouted any of them yet. I think part of it is because I had a bunch in the front yard that would have sprouted if I would have not been put in a situation where I was forced to cover it all with wood chips. So this right here is our new worm grower. We're growing earthworms, night crawlers, and redworms. So there's just soil in the bottom of here, and whenever I pull weeds from the yard, I just cut them up with scissors and put it on top, and then you just keep layering it, and then you water it. You don't want them to get too hot. These are a variety of things I've planted. I may post a list later of what everything is that's here, but there's labels for each section. These have only been in here for about a week, so there's already some sprouts, but some of them have not sprouted yet. There's a mixture of beets and flowers and pawpaw tree seeds in here, so that'll be really exciting to see. And there is some fun stuff sprouting down here. I'm not exactly sure what it is. But yeah, you can see down here where I started painting the underpinning to match the front of the house, and I'm going to try and get all the underpinning to match the front of the house, which is the other side. This is the back of the house where we're renting. And anyway, so that's a work in progress. You can see down here, the tree, not this one, but the one out in front of it is a peach tree. This one and this one are apple trees, and this was a tiny baby peach tree in the middle, and I don't think it's made it. Down here is a dogwood, and down here is a dogwood. But this peach tree, I went down and checked it out up close, and it has 10 peaches on it. I was totally shocked because these trees all blossomed and bloomed really early in the season, and we had 3 or 4 major frosts after they bloomed, and they did not all bloom at the same time. So I didn't think we were going to have any fruits. I don't see any evidence of apples growing. I'm hoping there will be, but I'm not expecting it because they need to cross-pollinate usually. But for some reason we have peaches. We sold our chickens and I miss them dearly, but we had complaints from the property owner about a lot of things, which really shocked us, to say the least. But we're just trying to focus on growing vegetables only back here, and sold the chickens. We have all this rock we put back here a couple years ago. That was a really big job. We had the rock delivered into roughly the same spot where we had the wood chips delivered. Those really pretty wood chips that you see at the base of these trees that I brought back here in barrels, or wheelbarrows rather. But we had these rocks delivered probably a year or two before we had the wood chips delivered. And it is really helpful back here because most of the day the angle of the sun creates a shadow, and these rocks stay nice and cool, and it helps us keep from getting too many things overgrown back here. And you can play on the swings. We put these swings in. This watermelon plate has fallen down. I planted some watermelon seeds here and here and here and here among the rocks. We did watermelons and pumpkins back here last year, and they really like to grow down the hill. So we're hoping we'll have a few watermelons. And right now, what my vision is for this back section is to have all along the inner perimeter of this fence, I want to have broccoli, because we eat a lot of broccoli. A whole lot of broccoli. We probably eat broccoli every other day. I'd also like to do some mixed color bell peppers and some banana peppers. We eat a lot of those on sandwiches and salads and as a side item. I want to do a whole bunch of straw flowers and snapdragons and cilantro, because I absolutely adore those plants, and I love saving the seeds from them. Those are plants that produce enormous amounts of seeds, are incredibly enjoyable, and they're just a lot of fun. I mean, you will have a pound of seeds off of maybe 3 or 4 square feet of plants. So I want to have the whole perimeter with a combination of edibles and flowers and herbs. And then try and keep this trimmed down through here. And down here, I'm not quite sure how this is going to turn out, but on the other side of this fence, we have raspberry vines and also grapevine. A grapevine. 3 of our grapevines didn't make it. And then there's a couple of blueberry vines down there. And down here we have 2 blackberry vines. And then there's a whole bunch of green peas that we're hoping will vine up onto the fencing through here. And you can see a lot of it is starting to try and grab onto the fence. There's also some different types of lettuce and other things planted over there too, just kind of haphazardly right along the edge of the fence. So it'll be fun to watch that stuff grow. In the front yard and on the sides of the house, we put in, you can see where we put down the wood chips, the mulch, and it's really golden and pretty. But after we had it delivered, we had an angry confrontation, or we received an angry confrontation rather, from the property owner, which we were really shocked by. So they demanded that all of the gigantic load of wood chip mulch be removed from where it was delivered to within 48 hours, which was extremely unreasonable because it was delivered for free, and we'd historically always been allowed to put down mulch and wood chips over the years. We've done it many times. We had these rocks delivered, to enhance the property, but for whatever reason, they just were really inappropriate about it. But we wanted to try and keep the peace. So there was no way for us to do what we had really planned to do with the mulch entirely. So we had to cover up the whole front garden and the 2 side gardens. And for the most part, there were thousands of things planted that have been ruined and destroyed. But one interesting thing came out of it. Unfortunately, all of the broccoli, all of the romaine lettuce, green and purple, and all of the Brussels sprout plants that were on this side of the house, I was just in tears, putting down all the wood chips and the mulch, and I thought it was going to smother the plants and kill them all. So what I did was I pulled those up out of the ground and it was, just threw them to the side to get hit by the lawnmower because I was devastated. I had worked so hard on that garden. The dirt that I planted it in, I had hauled that over. It took me an entire day to shovel that dirt from someone else's yard. They told me that I could have it. A family member that was really kind had a huge compost pile, so I had to shovel it into these little garbage bags, load it into my car, drive it over here, carry each tiny bag down, and spread it out in the garden. I mean, it took me a whole day. It was hard work. So I was just brokenhearted. But in the front part of the garden, there were lots of things I had planted, which I had tried to pull up as well, but there were some things that I thought, these things are so small, there's no way they're going to survive. There's no point in trying to pull all this up. And I was physically exhausted. I spent 2 days, much of the day shoveling, and one night shoveled halfway through the night. So it was quite an ordeal. But there are a lot of things that are pushing up through that thick layer of wood chips and mulch. And I suppose that since it rooted in rich soil that I'd been taking such good care of for the past 4 years, that the new growth is just pushing up through that light, fluffy wood chips. So it'll be kind of fun to see a few things that have survived up there push up through. There's some spearmint that's survived. There's a ton of gladiolas that have survived. There's a few things sprouting that we can't really tell what they are yet. Many fruit and vegetable gardeners know that lots of things that you plant will look identical to one another until they reach a certain stage in their growth. There is a large vine that's supposed to be a Black Hawk raspberry vine. It's not produced fruit yet, but last year it wrapped all the way around. It decorated our entire front porch. It was gorgeous. It's going super strong, so I'm excited to see how big it gets this year. I want to use some twine and use it to decorate the porch again. But those are the few things that I can think of right now. A couple of sunflowers, mammoth Russian sunflowers that will get really huge. So something good did come out of that really horrific experience of being screamed and yelled at and harassed. And I learned something about the plants in the garden that I probably would not have otherwise learned, because it ended up being a really extreme experiment with how would the plants respond, especially in such an early stage, to being covered that much. I'm just shocked at how many things have survived and are pushing up through. Most people say that if you put that much wood chips or that much mulch on top of your plants, that they'll smother them. What I'm finding is that they really love it, and they love it because the soil beneath is rich, it's been well worked, it's really healthy soil, and they were established in that soil before they started pushing up through the mulch. So the mulch is acting as this perfect barrier that's breathable, that is allowing the actually helping to keep the soil underneath from getting too hot. We are having extreme heat already this year. So anyway, I hear my husband, and that's all for today. Happy gardening, and come back next time. Thanks.